So Elizabeth is asking, can you list all of the identification marks of the beast?
Keyword there is all.
Oh, my friend Elizabeth, you're a woman after my own heart. You want to study all of the Bible, and I think that is absolutely fantastic. And I think that that's a very valid question, and I will do my best. I think we have about 9 minutes, but if I was going to give you a rundown, obviously, because when it comes to the beast, obviously you're speaking about the beast of Revelation 13. And when it comes to the beast of Revelation 13, there are so many markers that are not just in that chapter. And you really have to go to other chapters. Mainly you have to go to the book of Daniel in chapter 7, and also chapter 8 has some things as well. I'm sure chapter 11, as well as Revelation chapter 17, which actually helps you define a lot of what the identifying markers of this beast are. So if you want to go with me, we'll kind of run through it as fast as we can. So if you go to Revelation 13, I'll start in verse 1. Let's take a look at Revelation 13. And starting in verse 1, it says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea." So this is the beast that you're talking about, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. So the first thing you notice about the beast is it comes out of the sea. So there's actually 3 markers here in Revelation 13, verse 1. So the first thing is that it comes out of the sea. Well, what does that mean? So the one identifying mark of the beast is that, again, it comes out of the sea. And if you go to Revelation 17, verse 15, basically it says, the waters that you saw, these are peoples, multitudes, and nations and tongues. So basically it comes from a highly populated area. So that's basically one identifying marker. It doesn't come from, out of nowhere. This beast or this power isn't something that came, from, some random person out in the desert. No, it came from a densely populated area. It also says that this beast has 7 heads. Now, this is interesting because if you go again to Revelation 17, verse 9, it says the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. So basically there's this terrible woman in Revelation 17 that sits on the beast. And it says that, the 7 heads are 7 mountains. And so it's talking about an identifying marker of who this beast is. Basically, where is it seated? It's seated on 7 mountains. Where do we find 7 mountains in the world? The city of 7 mountains. And if you look at the word for mountains in the Greek, it's the word oros, which means it can mean mountain, it can mean hill, or it can mean a mount. It doesn't necessarily mean like a huge mountain. It can just mean a raised area of land. Where are the city of 7 mountains? It's Rome. So where are we going to find this beast entity? We're going to find it in Rome. Let's keep going then. The next thing in Revelation 13:1 says it has 10 horns. It says the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as of yet. But they receive power as kings this is Revelation 17, verses 12 through 14. So basically, these 10 horns are 10 kings, which haven't yet gotten their power. So this is kind of a future event that's going on. And basically, you see in verse 13 that they give their power and strength to the beast. So basically, these kings of the earth are giving their power to the beast. So it's a worldwide power. It's a power that has influence over other kingdoms, which is kind of interesting because if you look at an entity like the United Nations, there's really only one entity there that influences the other ones without actually being a nation in and of itself. If you know where I'm heading with this. And it says, the purpose of these are to make war with the Lamb. But those that are, with Jesus are called, chosen, and faithful. So basically, the purpose of, this beast power gaining worldly influence is for the purpose of, making war with the Lamb because as it says in the verse, that it has upon its heads the name of blasphemy. So what is blasphemy then? If you go in the Bible and you look at verses like Revelation chapter 2, in verse, I believe it's verse, excuse me, is it verse 9? Revelation 2, excuse me. I can read you the verse. I just want to make sure I quote it so you know where to find it yourself. Where it basically says that, I'm sorry. Verse 9.
What does it say? Maybe I could look it up.
No, it's Revelation 2:9. Sorry about that. It says, I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. So it's talking about God's people. And it says, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not. So those that say they are God's people and they're not, but they are the synagogue of Satan. So basically, that this power is going to claim to be God's people, but they are the synagogue of Satan. Now, does this mean that the individual people in this system are, evil? No, it's talking about the system of where this beast power is laid out. Again, I'm not saying that, all the individual members of this entity are wrong or not God's people. No, because God says, come out of her, my people. And that's something identifying of the beast, is there's people within this power that God's saying, come out of her. So there's many of God's people in this power, probably not aware of what it is. So that's just Revelation chapter 13, verse 1, and we have 3 minutes. So let me tell you, there's a lot more markers of this beast power. But if you keep going, there's so many different markers. I'm honestly, what I would suggest to give you the best answer is to go to Bible Ask. We actually have this verse answered. It's basically, who is the beast of Revelation 13, and it goes through 11 markers found in Revelation 13. Because if I was going to give you all the markers, this is going to take probably another hour or two. But
yeah, you're not even touching on Daniel.
Exactly. Daniel 7, Daniel 8,
Yeah.
Daniel 11, Revelation 17. Yes, thank you so much. I would check out this link to go into all the, in full detail of, some more of these markers. But basically, and, it's an entity, and it's an entity that's worshipped. So it's an entity based in Rome that has worldwide influence. It says there's a man at his head, and has blasphemy. And if you read it in John chapter 10, verse 33, it says basically that, the Jews were angry at Jesus, saying, we're going to stone you for blasphemy, because thou, being a man, makest thyself God. So who is an entity with a man at its head who claims to have basically to make thyself God? I'm not even going to tell you.
And maybe go back to Antichrist. Anti doesn't always mean against. Anti sometimes means in the place of, substituting for.
Exactly. So
Antichrist.
Exactly. And you keep going in Revelation 13 of this beast. It says man, there's just so much to go into that it's just too much. But basically, the greatest mark of this entity is in the last verse in Revelation 13:18. It says, here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and the number is 666. So 666. Everybody's like, what is this mysterious 666 number? They want to know. And, we've already said that, established that this power is based in Rome. It's the city on 7 hills. So if you're counting the name, you could use Roman numerals, right? And if you add up, this person that stands in the place of God, vicarious filii Dei, if you add up those numbers of that phrase, that comes to the number 666. So I want you to think for yourself
which, by the way, the vicarious means to stand in the place of.
Exactly. To stand in the place of Filii, the Son, Dei, God. To stand in the place of the Son of God. So,
Antichrist.
Exactly, Antichrist. So I'm not even going to name it. I want you to think for yourself, based on just these verses that we've shared, who this beast is or what this beast power is. And again, we're not attacking any person, any individual, but rather thinking of this as a system, are the doctrines within this system for God or against God, or for his law or against his law. And like it says in Daniel 7:25, speaking of the beast power, that they will think to change times and laws. And that's the biggest indicator of who this power is. What is the only religious political entity that you can think of in this world that has had the audacity to change God's law? Literally take out the second commandment and split the 10th into two. Find out for yourself and let me know what you think.